10. Resident Evil. In 2019, Olivia Jackson not only lost her arm following a horrific motorcycle accident during the filming of Resident Evil: The Final Chapter, she also spent 17 days in a coma. The 38-year-old stunt woman collided with a camera on a mechanical crane that was being steered directly at her as she was riding the bike towards it. What should have been a perfectly standard action film sequence turned into complete horror when she smashed into the camera and flipped off her bike. Olivia has since sued the film's producers, saying she was misled over her insurance coverage. She only ended up getting paid $33,000 for the loss of her arm, which is definitely not enough. It's not like being a stunt person doesn't come with its dangers, but those dangers should obviously have a bigger payout than $33,000. These people are paid to protect the actors, who make significantly more money than them. All Olivia wants is compensation for what happened while she was trying to do her job. Plus, the accident wasn't even her fault. In her lawsuit, she claimed the stunt was a disaster because of changes made at the last minute. The camera was lifted later on the final run, and she wasn't informed about it. This meant she wasn't ready for where the camera was going to be, and she smashed it with her forearm at 71 miles per hour. She obliterated the bone in her arm and tore the flesh off her cheek, leaving her teeth exposed like a zombie from The Walking Dead. Olivia also suffered punctured lungs, many broken bones, a severed neck artery, and brain swelling. She is extremely lucky to be alive. Olivia is still looking at 10 additional surgeries over the next few years. All she wants is some money to help pay for her medical bills, as well as recognition for what happened. 9. DEADPOOL motorcycle crash. Stunt woman Joy Harris died in a tragic motorcycle accident during the filming of Deadpool 2 in Vancouver. This happened in August of 2017. The producers of the movie were slapped with a penalty of almost $300,000. They failed to provide a safe workplace for the stunt woman, and this failure left her dead. What's truly tragic is that Joy was performing her first movie stunt ever. She had been training, she was ready, and she got on that motorcycle thinking it would lead to a long career as a stunt woman. She was also the first African-American woman to be licensed to compete in races with the American Motorcyclist Association. But instead of a long career, she was ejected from the bike and crashed through a glass window and died. 8. Vin Diesel's stunt double disaster. During the 2019 filming of Fast and Furious 9, Vin Diesel's stunt double fell 30 feet and suffered a serious head injury. His name is Joe Watts, a British national who's worked on plenty of the biggest movies and TV shows. His list includes movies like Spider-Man, Kingsman, and shows like Game of Thrones. But while filming Fast and Furious at Warner Brothers Studio, one stunt nearly cost him his life. The stunt should have been simple. Joe was supposed to be thrown over the shoulder of another performer off the edge of a balcony. The balcony was 25 feet high. He was supposed to be suspended in midair by a wire. Something went wrong. The wire didn't catch him, and he hit the concrete floor. He had to be rushed by an air ambulance to the Royal London Hospital, where doctors said he had a fractured skull. They had to put him into a medically induced coma for 5 days. The only good news here is that Joe recovered. He's still alive today, although he did need to relearn a lot of basic skills. He had to learn how to talk again. And then, to make things worse, his rehabilitation was interrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. He was no longer able to see his physiotherapist, his occupational therapist, or his neuropsychologist. Joe is still on the road to recovery and is making progress day by day. He doesn't have any memory of what happened on the set, and he hasn't been able to work since the accident. 7. Jackass Forever's lawsuit. While filming the new Jackass Forever movie, somebody got hurt. Somebody always gets hurt when filming these things, but this time it was somebody who wasn't actually part of the movie. The victim was struck in the head with something and nearly died when a jet ski stunt went terribly wrong. He's now suing Steve O and Chris Pontius for $12 million in damages. It all started when the Jackass crew was in Puerto Rico in 2018 to film. They approached a man named Michael Vincenz Segura and asked them if they could use his jet ski for their stunt. It was a tug-of-war deal with a bungee cord tied to both jet skis. Stuntmen on the jet skis were to hit the gas and drive away from each other as fast as they could to see what happened, but it never got that far. Because the waters were really choppy, the crew asked Michael if he could hold one of the jet skis steady as they started. But when the stuntmen hit the gas, the bungee cord snapped immediately. It hit Michael in the head at high speed, and Michael had to be airlifted to the nearest hospital. This was no mere concussion. Michael was in serious trouble. He had a bleeding brain, a fractured skull, and needed to be put into a medically induced coma. He is now unable to work because he suffers chronic pain. He's traumatized, and he's covered in scars. He wants 6 figures from the Jackass crew to help him deal with his injuries for the rest of his life. 6. The America's Got Talent rehearsal nightmare. Not everyone who signed up for America's Got Talent had any actual talent, but professional daredevil Jonathan Goodwin did. The only issue was that when he was rehearsing his big stunt for America's Got Talent Extreme, he wound up falling 40 feet onto hard concrete after getting crushed between 2 cars and set on fire. Jonathan almost died in Atlanta due to the extreme injuries he suffered preparing to go on TV and show America his talent. He considered himself to be something of an escape artist, a modern-day Houdini. His stunt involved him being suspended by a wire in mid-air, with 1 car on either side suspended from cranes. The cars were also held by wires, and when they were released, they would meet in the middle like a pendulum, right where Jonathan was hanging. He was supposed to free himself from his bonds before this happened, and then fall 40 feet onto an airbag. Sadly, it all went very terribly wrong. Jonathan miscalculated his timing and didn't free himself soon enough. He was crushed when the 2 hanging cars crashed into him. When they collided, they lit on fire and burned his face. And if that wasn't bad enough, he fell 40 feet and missed the airbag, landing on the concrete on his head. He did survive, but it was a very close call. Plus, he didn't get to compete in the show and potentially win the big cash prize. Do you think there should have been some kind of consolation prize for Jonathan? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe before the end of the video. 5. Expendable on Expendables 2. Kun Liu was killed by an explosion during the filming of The Expendables 2, featuring the action heroes Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. The man was just 26 years old when he was performing on an inflatable boat in Bulgaria. According to the Bulgarian authorities, the explosion seriously injured an unnamed stuntman while killing Kun Liu. But here's the deal. We don't really know what happened. The explosion was in 2011, and the death never really made the news in a big way. There were a few reports about it, and then it vanished. We were given the dead man's name, but no critical details about what actually happened. It almost seems as though it was covered up to protect what went on to be a huge success at the box office. In 2012, the parents of the stuntman sued the filmmakers, but we don't know how that turned out either. They filed a case of wrongful death against Millennium Films, but we have no idea if they settled out of court or what. All we know is that an explosion went very wrong. One stuntman lost his life, another was seriously injured, and The Expendables 2 went on to make a huge amount of money. Most people never even knew what happened during the filming. 4. Lethal Weapon Civil Casualty. During the filming of the Lethal Weapon TV series in 2019, a civilian suffered a traumatic brain injury. It happened on August 22, 2018. Lethal Weapon was filming in California when Sammy Habas had his vehicle shredded by a zip line that had been set up along a street in Long Beach. The zip line was for the test run of a stunt in which the stunt person would glide across the street. The test involved sending a sandbag of 300 pounds down the zip line. Everything went okay, with traffic blocked while the test stunt was underway. When the stunt was over, traffic was allowed to resume, but the cable was still there. Just as Sammy was driving near it, the cable snapped and hit his car, injuring his wife, Sandy. The vehicle was only going about 20 miles an hour. When the cable snapped and hit the car, it struck with so much force that the vehicle was lifted in the air and the front end was shredded. It even ripped apart a light pole in the process. After the accident, Sammy and Sandy filed the suit against Warner Media and Warner Brothers, seeking money for emotional damage and for the alleged traumatic brain injury. The plaintiffs went a little far, though, with the emotional damage. They've alleged that since the accident, both have required constant psychological care. They have severe emotional distress and need to be looked after by a psychiatrist at all times of the day. 3. Injury on the Maze Runner set. The star of the Maze Runner trilogy, Dylan O'Brien, was so seriously injured while filming the 2020 third installment of the franchise that the production halted for nearly a year. He was shooting a scene involving a stunt car when something went horribly wrong and it ran him over. He ended up beneath the vehicle, crushed and almost killed. He had to be rushed to the hospital, suffering from a concussion, a facial fracture, and brain trauma. According to what the actor told the media, he literally broke the majority of the right side of his face. Thankfully, Dylan did make a full recovery. One thing that's changed, according to him, is that when he puts on a rig to do a stunt, he's extremely thorough in checking it. He's also admitted that if there's a stunt and he needs to do some action, he becomes irritable and a little anxious. But after getting run over by a car on a set, you really can't blame the guy. 2. Transformers 3 Tragedy. Aspiring actress Gabriela Cedillo nearly died in 2012 during the filming of Transformers 3. She was working as an extra on set and was driving one of the cars during a chase scene. The action sequence was being filmed on Klein Avenue in Chicago, with Gabriela in one car and the vehicle in front being pulled by a cable. The cable snapped and Gabriela accidentally drove straight into it. The other vehicle smashed through her windshield and hit her directly in the head, almost crushing it like an egg. She's lucky to be alive today, especially considering she was driving 50 miles per hour when the accident happened, but her injuries will be with her for the rest of her life. She lost 1/3 of her head and a huge part of the right side of her brain. She was once an energetic woman eager to star in movies. Now she requires 24-hour care and will need it for the rest of her life. She'll definitely be taken care of by her friends and family, but she'll never drive another vehicle again. Her family was awarded $18.5 million in a settlement, but they'd trade it in a heartbeat to get Gabriela back the way she used to be. 1. The Twilight Zone of Despair. What happened on the final day of filming for the 1983 feature-length adaptation of The Twilight Zone has gone down in history as the worst stunt disaster ever. While shooting the final scene on the final day, actor Vic Morrow was decapitated, and 2 child actors were killed by a falling helicopter. This was by far the most gruesome on-set disaster. Vic Morrow is the only actor who's literally lost his head while trying to film a movie. The final scene was a big one. Vic's character was supposed to redeem himself by attempting to rescue a pair of Vietnamese children from a U.S. air raid. The man behind the controls of the helicopter was a real Vietnam veteran named Dorsey Wingo. He was new to the movie business and knew more about actual bombs than special effects. When the camera started rolling, pyrotechnic fireballs swarmed around the helicopter, and Dorsey didn't seem to know how to react. He forced the vehicle down into a river where the actors were, in front of about 100 people. 6-year-old Renee Chen was crushed as Vic Morrow dropped her from his arms. The helicopter rolled, its main blade sliced Vic's head off, and pretty much cleaved 7-year-old Micah Din Lee in half. Suffice to say, this was the end of shooting. Did hearing about all these terrible tragedies give you a whole new respect for stunt doubles? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks a lot for watching. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe. See you again soon for another awesome video from the channel. Bye.